And welcome to the Rome Show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you taking the time out coming on my podcast.
Yeah. I was curious about it because I was looking at some of your podcasts and I was like, well, it's not really a tennis show or a sports show, but I was just kind of curious, like what made you reach out to me?
Right. So,
Like what I do that interests you?
well, for one, my mom is into tennis. So I
I
always,
love it. Okay.
so I always wanted to get a tennis player on my show for her. You know,
Okay.
yeah. And
Perfect.
I like to interview different people in different industries, like not just music.
Yeah. It seems like you had a nice variety of guests. So yeah. So
Yeah.
you're at a university, is that right? Is
Um,
the radio station a university station or
yeah.
okay.
And then I have my
Nice.
my podcast too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it seems like you've got a lot going on. I was like, he's just doing it all.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I went to school for radio and TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, this is really fun.
It's
Do
just
you play tennis at all, or is it just your mom?
um, I play with her sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard game, but yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Um, so for the people on my platform that don't know, can you tell them, about what you do a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm a tennis player, and I like to travel to play tennis, and also like to travel to different tournaments to watch professional tennis. So um, whenever I would go to a different city or destination, I just kind of keep a list of like where I like to shop and eat, and hotels I like to stay at, and yeah, that's kind of where all this came from. Because my friends would say like I'm going to Palm Springs, like where should I stay, like where should I go, and I would just send them my little list of recommendations. But yeah, I decided to sort of organize it, and I also like to write, so I write a blog just about different tennis stuff, like my favorite places to go or favorite gear, like favorite rackets, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, so I've it's been almost 2 years. I'm pretty small, but tennis overall is it's not basketball or football, so it's a smaller community, but it's been really fun to get to know other players around the country, and um, yeah, and I love stuff like this where like your audience might not be super familiar with tennis, but um, it's a really exciting sport, and especially American tennis right now, as there's so many great players that are actually doing really well, and they're fun to watch. So um, we lost Serena, which was a big bummer, but Venus is still playing, and um, it's kind of there's a big shift in tennis right now. So a lot of the guys that have sort of dominated for like the past 20 years are starting to retire, and um, so I guess it's a little bit like football. Um, like for the longest time, it's been like Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, and Novak Djokovic are like the big three.
Yeah.
And and I was trying to think of like how to put it, and Roger's kind of like the Tom Brady, like looks the part, he's a beautiful player, like you know, and he just retired, and um, Rafa is kind of like a Peyton Manning, like just a super clean cut guy, like super disciplined, just really likable, like doesn't really do anything wrong, and um, Novak is kind of like an Aaron Rodgers, like you either love him or hate him. But he just won. I don't know if you watched this weekend was the French Open. So he just won the French Open, and he now has the most Grand Slam titles of all three of them. So it's kind of funny because like the like Roger and Rafa, like everybody loves them. You know, they're very likable guys, but Novak's kind of like, you know, he's done like some sketchy stuff. You know, he did want to get vaccinated, which caused a lot of drama, like trying to get into the United States and trying to get into Australia. But you know, so he's got that. He's always been kind of fighting for respect. But yeah, so those guys are kind of on the way out, but there's all these new guys. I don't know if you know or familiar with any of the younger tennis players coming in, but Ben Shelton, you know who he is?
I don't.
Yeah,
Recently.
that's okay. Yeah, so he won the NCAA singles um, title in Florida, and his dad was the coach. So, and he is like super athletic. He was a quarterback too. So I was at a tournament in Miami, and he's just like chucking the football around with his buddies, like, you know, just a super athlete. But he's really young and he's doing great. And um, you know, Taylor Fritz is from California. Francis Tiafoe is from the Baltimore area, but they're all just like these super young, fun guys. And, um, you know, I think Francis especially is trying to kind of make the sport a little more exciting. Like he is a big basketball, he's from Baltimore, I think, and loves basketball and is trying to make like the environment at tennis matches a little bit more fun because it is pretty rigid. Like it's, you know, you can't really, you have to be quiet and you can't really walk around or like, you know, be wild and crazy. But yeah, I mean it's I like that I like that you're into it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And like when I'm playing, I always thought like when you serve, it looks
Hmm.
easy, but like once you go to do it, like it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to pick up, but you know, like I feel fortunate. I started playing when I was around 10, so I just have like it's just a lot of repetition. But a lot of the women I play with at, you know, like at the club level take it up in their 30s or 40s, and it's, you know, it's really fun. It's a good way to like still play a competitive sport. You know, like if you're, you know, if you have always been an athlete, like you kind of miss that um, opportunity to compete. And um, so, and it's fun and it's social. And yeah, I really like it.
Super dope, super dope.
What else do you want to know?
What haven't you done with your tennis career yet that you want to do?
um, yeah, so there are four majors in tennis. So the first one is the Australian Open, which is in January. The second one just happened, that's the French Open, and then Wimbledon is next, which is in July, and then the U.S. Open is in August. So those are like the four main ones. And I've been to the French Open and the U.S. Open a few times. Um, but I guess my goal would be to get to the other two. I won't be going to Wimbledon this year, but you know, that's on my list. And then definitely to Australia. The flight to Australia kind of scares me. It's just so long, but I've heard it's a great tournament, and the Australians get pretty rowdy. They're kind of a crazy bunch, but you know, definitely those two. And um, yeah, I'm getting ready. Next week I leave to London. I'm going to a tournament in London, and then after that I'll be going to Mallorca, Spain, which is in the Balearic Islands, and there's another tournament there. But that's what's kind of fun. Like there's tennis tournaments all year, all over the world, so you can really kind of pick like, you know, if you wanted to go to Tokyo, there's a tournament there in October, and um, that's kind of how I would, you know, plan my, you know, if I were like to go to my husband and say like, oh, I'd love to go here, like just coincidentally there's a tournament there. But yeah, I love sports overall. I have two boys, so that's, you know, like football's always been a big part of my life. But um, you know, and there was kind of a lull after the Super Bowl, and we're just like where there's no sports and you're just like, gosh, what do people do? What do you do if you're not into sports? I mean, I I'm sure, for me, that's just how I feel. But yeah, and I love being, in my 40s and still being able to like play a competitive sport. I mean, I treat it like a job, even though I pay to do it. I don't get paid to do it, but it's really fun.
So you're independent.
Yeah, so I don't. This is just like a creative endeavor I've got put together on my own. I've done some collaborations with different clothing brands, but yeah, I'm kind of a one-man show right now. I run my own website, and I'm really just sort of focusing on growing. It can definitely be discouraging, when you like focus too much on numbers, but which I do, like I think anybody who is doing something creative like this, that's how one way you gauge it is by, the how much people like it. And but I try not to fixate on that too much. I really, like I started this because I love it for one, which I'm sure you can probably relate to. Um and I just feel like if you just keep working and being genuine about what you're doing, like it'll happen, like things will um the right stuff will come your way. And that's kind of how, that's kind of my outlook on this. I've been able to connect with really great people, other people in the industry who, might be on the media side. They might, be part of a magazine or um but just making those connections. And I feel like, the more I can kind of put myself out there as someone who loves tennis and someone that, can be professional, I think, the right thing will organically come my way. But in the meantime, I just have fun. I love doing stuff like this. I love, meeting people and um, talking about tennis and sharing my passion for it and hopefully getting some new tennis fans.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool. You're just independent. You got a lot going on. What's some advice you could give to somebody who wants to become a tennis player and you've been to far places, you've been in tournaments.
um, yeah, if I think the great thing about tennis nowadays is it's just so much more accessible. Like, I think before, like I didn't grow up, my parents weren't part of a country club. Like I didn't start taking tennis, like official tennis lessons until I was in like probably eighth grade, like almost ready to go into high school. Um, and I think that's why it cut out big portions of the community when you had to like have a court or have a club or have, like be able to afford private lessons. But now um, you can go. I just had some friends come in from LA and we went to a public court and paid $3 to use the court. So it's just a lot more accessible now. And um, yeah, and it is kind of hard, but I learned like I spent a lot of time on the hitting wall. Um, I actually did when I was in third grade, my parents put like this janky tennis court in our backyard, but it had a wall at one end. And before that, we had like the side of our garage that was closed in. I would just hit the tennis ball up against the wall, and um, you just kind of, I just kind of made do with what I had. But it's like any other sport. Like, like if you're into basketball, you go out and just like shoot, 100 free throws. It's the same way. Like I would try and hit, 54 hands above the line without missing. And but yeah, there's lots of places to go, and like YouTube is great now. Like no, we didn't have YouTube before, but you can watch videos on how to get started and how to have proper form. And um I mean, if you're in Connecticut, right?
Right.
Yeah. So and the great thing about like the is the if you go like most of these tournaments, so like before they start, there's like 3 or 4 days before the official start where it's qualifying. So like people just try and qualify to get into the tournament. And those days are usually free. So especially like in the, like in the New York area, you can go to Queens and watch like those qualifying rounds. They have like free days where it's like you don't have to, because those tickets can get really expensive. But you can go and watch tennis for free. And I feel like that's where I learned a lot, is just by watching someone else do it right. It's just like any other sport or activity. If you watch someone do it properly and um, try and emulate that. But yeah.
Super cool, good advice. What's a few things that you do? Like, you wake up and you feel a little off. What's a few
hmm
things you do to get your day going?
Yeah, I definitely have to do something like physical every day. I don't play tennis every day. I do play a lot, but if I have days off, I love listening to podcasts. So I'll go, there's like this 4 mile loop around my house, and I'll listen to tennis podcasts, or I listen to like the New York Times, or like current events, or different travel podcasts. Um, uh, but and I think a lot of times too, like being in the social media realm, I definitely take days off. It is really addicting, and you're constantly wanting to be connected. But and it's usually Sundays. Like Sundays, I'm just like, what, it's everything's gonna be fine if I like just ignore this for a day, or ignore it for an afternoon, or you know what I mean? Because it's very easy to just take it everywhere with you, and just to kind of step away. And just like I was saying, like I definitely, it can be discouraging when you're not like seeing growth or seeing um, positive feedback or anything like that. It's a little bit of a guessing game. But I like to step back and just ask myself, like, why did you start this in the first place? And stay focused on that. And fortunately, I have really good friends, and my following all seems to be like a really positive group of people, and they're very supportive and reassuring. And I think that's probably the biggest part, is like, surround yourself with people who are happy for your success, because not everybody will be. Um, and, just stay true to who you are, and just keep working. I think, you just to not get, just keep doing what you're doing, and definitely try and make improvements along the way. But, stuff takes time. Yeah. So how long have you been hosting your own radio show and podcast? Because you look very young to be doing all this.
I'm good.
Okay.
So yeah, I went to school 5 years ago, and
hmm
I've been doing a podcast for 4 years, and
hmm
I recently got the radio show. So I've been
Okay.
doing that for about almost a year now. Yeah.
Nice. So your portion on the radio is all talk, or do you play music, or?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. What's the music genre?
Honestly, I play every
Country? Is it country?
country, R&B.
I'm just kidding. I don't like country. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. So who are like, is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. um, like what kind of music do you listen to, like if you're working out, or like what's on your gym playlist or your workout playlist?
Um, it depends. Like it could be R&B, it could be hip hop, a rock song.
hmm hmm
I like Billie Eilish, Your Power.
Okay. Yeah, she's very talented. Um, nice.
Yeah.
That's surprising. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that was like, I don't know if you like watched any of the videos on my profile, but I think that's probably one thing that a lot of my own friends didn't really know about me, is um I really like rap. And I feel like, like my friends that the little club that I play with are probably like, oh my gosh, like, but you know, I've got 3 kids, and my husband's a huge Ice Cube fan, so we just kind of, you know, it's always been on in the background, but I love it. It's, you know, I find it super motivating, you know, if it's the right stuff. But um, nice. So did you grow up in Connecticut, or
Yeah,
did you go to school there? Okay, nice. I've never been there.
never been.
But I imagine it's very cold in the winter.
Oh yeah, and you in Arizona, right?
Yes, I have lived here pretty much my whole life. I lived for in San Diego for a while, which is not that much different. Just a little more cloudy and rainy, but it's um, you know, going back to you asking me, when I lived in San Diego, I did kind of struggle because where I lived, there was a really bad marine layer and like really gray days, um, and I sort of learned that about myself. You know, growing up in Arizona, you see the sun every day, and um, so I know that about myself. Like I have to be somewhere where I can be outside, and you know, and I feel really fortunate that I can do that because you know, I did work for a while in an office, and it's, you know, it's tough. It's tough when you don't have time to be outside. So I feel really lucky to live in such a beautiful place and to be able to spend time outside, and you know, I it's getting really hot here, so I won't be outside during the day. You have to get up really early to play tennis or play in the evenings. But um, yeah, but Connecticut seems like, I mean, the Northeast is a big tennis community, so there's got to be um, lots of places to play up there. I think there's a camp that I looked at that's in, I want to say it's in Vermont, that does like, you know, you can go there and spend a week and, you know, do all this fun, um, you know, take lessons and all that stuff. So yeah, some of that stuff is I have a big long list of places that I'd like to go.
Super dope, super dope.
I'm gonna tell my kids that you say that I'm super dope.
Well, what can your fans and your people expect to see new?
My people, yeah, I'm really excited to go to Mallorca this summer. I love Spain. I've been to Barcelona before. I have some Spanish heritage, so I just love. I'm a little bit of a history nerd too, so I love like the history of places, and so I'm definitely excited to share a lot of that. I reached out to this woman who is a tour guide there, and so I love, like, when I visit a new city, like one of the first things I'll do is I'll set up like a city tour or something like that, so you can learn a little bit of history and like some background, and then, you know, explore from there. But I'm definitely excited to share that part of my summer. And Rafa Nadal, who I had talked about earlier, has a tennis camp there. It's where he lives and grew up, and he has this big tennis academy there, which I wanted to do a couple days there, but they have like a 5-day minimum, and I didn't want to spend the whole time I was there playing tennis. But you know, they can look forward to a lot of you know, insight on that. I'm doing a little stop in London. So maybe some new spots in London. And then in July, I spend some time in California, just because it's really hot here in Phoenix. So, but yeah, and you know, typically summer is when I like to disconnect a little bit, spend some time with my family. So there might, you know, they might even expect a little bit of a lull in my content, but I'll be in New York for the US Open in August, which I'm really excited about that. And yeah, just lots of tennis, maybe some off-season training. I'm trying to mix in more like strength training and stuff like that, because you know, tennis is it's mostly cardio, and you know, you kind of have to take time off of playing to to build strength. But yeah, so lots of fun stuff and more, bad dancing videos and all the stuff they're used to. If they've stuck around this far, then
So cool. Got a lot.
they must not know that they can unfollow me.
One more question before we wrap it up. If you had an opportunity to play a team, like a 2-on-2 tournament at like the biggest tennis tournament, and you were able to pick your partner, who would you pick?
I love that you called it like 2v2. Okay, so in tennis, so it's doubles. So like if I were to play doubles, I would say I love like all the American tennis girls right now. Like they're so fun and funny. And my husband actually got to meet Coco Gauff when we were in New York a couple years ago, and he like never lets me forget it because I was upstairs in the hotel room, and he was just like, I got to meet Coco, so I would definitely play with Coco. And Serena. I mean, I know she's pregnant, but she probably could still beat all of us. So Serena and Coco, and so I think I would probably play. Maybe I'd play with Coco, and then we could play Venus and Serena. Like, because at least we're around the same age, so there's. And then I would take the younger players since I definitely would need an advantage. But yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun. And if you ever want to know anything else about tennis, or if you ever come to Arizona, or if you are going to be in New York when the US Open is happening, yeah, hit me up.
All right. Absolutely. We can do another interview soon.
Yeah, well, good luck to you and all your endeavors. It sounds like you're a really hard worker and doing lots of good stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.